Go adjust my stuff here. Awesome. All right, thanks for joining everybody. And let's go ahead and get started. Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar presentation called Beyond the Bachelor's, Exploring and Applying to Graduate Programs. Thank you so much for making the time to join us today. In a moment, we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves, but first, just a couple of housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded, so please do feel free to reach out to myself or to my colleague for the recording link if you'd like to have access to it at a later time. Our information will be on another slide for your convenience. And today's session is an adapted form of webinar that we host for incoming Trojans at the USC Rossier School of Education. So while a lot of the imagery, like our beautiful building pictured here, and the staff, myself and my colleague, are from the School of Education, we'll be providing information that can be relevant to a number of different graduate programs and applications as well. So before jumping into content, I invite you all to take a moment and just settle in. We know there's been a lot going on right now, definitely in the world, perhaps even personally. Today it's January 27th. So for those of you who are in school right now, I hope the spring semester is off to a fantastic start. For those of you that are maybe working, I'm sure you've hit the ground running after the holidays, and you might even be on your lunch break right now. So all this to say, we definitely don't take it lightly that you're spending the next hour with us to really focus on yourself and your professional development in the form of exploring the graduate school application process. So to the degree that you are able to, we just truly invite you to settle in and check in with yourself for this hour, because what a privilege, what a luxury it is to really take that time and focus on ourselves and our professional development. Moving on to our agenda for today. So for the first half of today's session, we'll be talking about exploring your options. We'll really talk a little bit about researching grad programs and provide some considerations in terms of what to look for. We'll also be touching on informational interviews as one avenue of answering questions that you'll be asking yourself as part of this process. And then during the second half, we'll talk about common components of graduate school applications and the process of applying, getting acquainted with the admissions requirements and all of that good stuff. We'll also talk about creating your own timeline and action plan to meet your own deadlines, as well as the deadlines of the program that you may be applying to. Just as a quick reminder, the chat will be open throughout the session. Please feel free to type in your questions as they come up, and we'll do our best to address them as we go in that chat. And we'll also have a bit of Q&A time at the very end. Now, because this is a more broad or more general session, it would really be helpful to get to know the people that are in the room with us today. So if you could please in the chat add a few of these items. If you could start off with your name, perhaps your undergraduate major or majors, and if there are any graduate programs or schools that you're considering, it would be helpful to know that as well, just to move through the session, be able to provide some relevant examples, and just engage with you in a more meaningful way. So we'll give folks a minute or so to add that in the chat. But meanwhile, my colleague and I will start by introducing ourselves. So please continue to add this information in the chat. But just so we get a better picture of who you are and where you're headed. But a little bit about me. My name is Clara Collin, and I serve as Assistant Director at the USC Rossier Office of Admission and Scholarships. I have worked in different areas of education and just the education field for over 10 years now. And I am also a first-generation college graduate and Rossier alumna. So my role at Rossier now is recruiting for 3 of our master's programs. There's a teaching program specializing in language education. We have a program that's exploring AI and technology in the learning design field. And we also have a new data science program in partnership with USC Viterbi that I am also in charge of. So I meet with applicants to these programs one-on-one to support them through their application journey. Now I'll go ahead and hand it off to my colleague to introduce herself.
Thanks, Scott. My name's Heidi Tejas. Hi, everyone. I've been working in higher ed now for over 10 plus years. I first started at Whittier College and now I'm here at USC Rossier since 2018. I'm also first gen, actually a proud immigrant from Mexico as well. And I specifically oversee two of our master's programs here, our Master of Science in Marriage and Family Therapy, both our on-campus or online programs, and our new Doctoral of Education in Mental Health Leadership online program. So, as Clara mentioned, I also support applicants in their graduate journey. So, welcome everyone and hope this will be all informative to you all.
Wonderful. Thank you, Heidi. And I'm seeing some folks in the chat. Awesome. Business administration, some amazing schools that you're looking into, biological sciences, BFA student, amazing health promotion, disease prevention. Okay, so we've got a very diverse set of like audience members here today. That is fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time out of all of your busy schedules. Film and TV production, amazing. Oh my gosh, so we just got some amazing folks today. So we'll definitely continue to engage with whatever you're putting in the chat. And thank you for telling us a little bit about yourselves today to inform just our session, make it a little bit more authentic and relevant to you as well. And with that, let's go ahead and jump into step number one, as mentioned in the agenda, which is really about exploring your options, or really doing the me search before the research. So part of looking at graduate programs and what I'll be encouraging all of you to do today, is not to start with the graduate programs themselves, but to start with yourself and center yourself in this process, because a lot of what will come out of that sort of introspective work is clarity with the types of programs you're looking into, and what you might need as training while you're in your graduate program to prepare you for your future. Right, so moving on here. Um, Before you research potential grad programs, it's really important to take your time to reflect on your own skills and interests, as well as consider your own career goals. And then after doing that work, moving into really fully researching program offerings. So very commonly students start at the program offerings. So for this session, again, we're just sort of going to flip that on its head and encourage you to do the me search first. And that starts with skills and interests. So if we're breaking this down, what interests me? What fuels me? What do I not want to do? Right? We often think of what we want to pursue, or something that we're really looking forward. But that other part, that counterpart of something maybe we don't enjoy as much or can't see ourselves doing from the day to day, is also very important in guiding you. You also want to ask, what are my objectives for entering grad school, for applying to grad school? What informs my decision to apply? And also, why now? That's very important and relevant to some of your components as well. So you're really looking at all the wonderful skills that you bring with you already. These could be technical skills or hard skills, as well as soft skills or people skills that may set you apart in your field and where you're going. So to take really inventory of your interests, it could be maybe an academic interest that you've encountered that pushed you to want to continue your studies, or maybe something in your field that already calls to you, something that you can see yourself doing day to day as a professional. For those of you that may already be in a career position, you may be looking to build on the skills that you've already been honing. So that's, that last question, what informs my decision to apply? And why now is really crucial, and something that's commonly asked in these applications. Maybe it's career advancement, maybe your decision is informed by our current national situation, maybe it's current climate, maybe it's all of that put together. So starting with your skills and interests, now you're moving on to career goals. Right? So now it's sort of projecting ahead. we have a role or maybe we have a field in mind. The question is, how is career prep included in this program? It might be a good idea to take a look at some of the specific classes in the curriculum, that are part of the curriculum that you're for the program you're looking at. What type of training do I need? What type of skills do I need to develop through this training? Also, what experiences does this program offer me? Does this field of work require clinical hours? Are internships you really the path to success in this particular field? And mixed into all these questions is that overarching question of what is the impact that I want to make? So it could be with a specific population. It could be within a certain type of office or within a demographic of people. It could also be an issue or a challenge that you've come across in the field already or with the particular folks that you serve. Maybe the students that you're serving are coming across a specific issue that you want to be able to utilize your degree to address and to provide solutions for. So maybe you need that additional training, right? That hands-on that's already baked into your program. So what is that training that you need for the solution to a challenge that you may already be seeing and that may already be informing your decision to apply? So going from skills and interest to career goals is sort of that gap analysis, right? So here's where I am currently. This is where I want to be. Needs to happen in the middle, or what do I need to be involved in the middle? So once you kind of get to that part of the self-reflection is really where the program offering components come in, because now we're really looking at, specifically how does this program at this specific school that I'm looking at actively support my objectives or my career goals? How does the mission of the program align with my own values? School missions, program missions are so important and also a huge part of the application process. Um, Another really important question, how does the program expand my network and expand my reach? You might have experience at this point with our own Trojan network, right? The strong Trojan network of leaders that we're preparing in our graduate programs, and they're now in spaces of influence, right? These are the changes, the agents of change that we're seeing across systems that we're running into in our fields of work. So how does the program itself expand your network and reach, especially if that's something that's very integral to the work that you're looking at doing? And everything you're seeing on the screen here, it's not an exhaustive list. You might have more questions that are included here, or you might have questions that you don't quite know the answer to at this juncture. But your network is really a huge resource for continuing this part of the process, this part of doing the me search. You're tapping into your network because you're coming into grad school, into these spaces already with so much experience and a strong network of peers, of mentors, maybe support staff, alumni, professors from your undergrad career. So all of these folks are really such a great resource to lean on as you're stepping into this new chapter. So with that, I'll go ahead and start this short clip. It's about a 3-minute video talking about informational interviews, and we can talk about what and a valuable tool this can be as you're starting applications, as you're considering programs, and as you're collecting all the necessary items for these components for these graduate school applications. So I will go ahead and slide this video over. Please do let me know if there's any issues with the audio.
An informational interview is an amazingly powerful tool. It can help you learn about different types of work you're interested in. And by providing inside perspective, it may even connect you to opportunities you couldn't see from the outside. So let's take a look at what informational interviewing is all about. An informational interview is not a job interview, and it's not a tricky play to get a job. If you're asking for a job and they do have one, then they'll likely start judging whether you're a good fit. And if they don't have one, then that conversation ends there. The key to a successful informational interview is curiosity. With sincere curiosity and good questions about your interviewee's life and experience, you gain insights into their successes and failures how they got where they are, and what's important to them. Your curiosity will lead to an authentically engaged conversation, which also opens the door for the interviewee to get curious about you. The professional you're speaking with might say something like, "Wow, you're asking some really good questions." And in that transition, informational interviewing becomes even more valuable for someone looking for work. Informational interviews give you an opportunity to see what kinds of work resonate with you and help you determine what communities you would like to be a part of. In a good informational interview, the professional you speak with gets a lot out of the conversation too. They get to discuss their life and their work with someone who's curious about their experience and values their expertise. Plus, they get the pleasure of talking with someone who's genuinely interested in what they do. How do you do it well? Here are 5 tips to get you started. First, do your homework. Take some time to research LinkedIn or other online platforms to learn about the professional you're interviewing. Consider what questions you have about their life and work. The second tip is to try to meet in person. On the phone is okay, but face to face is best. 3, always try to buy the coffee or lunch. Your interviewee is giving you their time. Paying is a good way of showing your appreciation and beginning to create a connection. 4, ask your interviewee who else they recommend you talk with. If the interview has gone well, they may be willing to connect you to other professionals you could learn from and who might have opportunities for you. Finally, tip number 5, after the interview, send a thank you. Email is okay, but a handwritten note is even better. And if they ask you to keep them posted on your progress, do so.
Awesome. All right. So, moving on, a little bit going back to our presentation, and bringing this idea, right, this concept of informational interviews as a way to really determine, what are those skills and interests, what are those career goals that you have, because you might be at a different point, or you're really just trying to get additional information to make your own informed decisions. So, the video I think really does a good job about talking about what informational interviews are. But just as an emphasis, before you connect, definitely do some of that research ahead of time. As the video mentioned, do your homework. Take a look on websites. If it's like a faculty member or somebody on USC staff that you're looking to read their bio on a USC website. You can look at LinkedIn to prepare your questions before an informational interview, because ideally an informational interview will be able to get at questions that aren't necessarily posted on a website. So for example, you might be doing one of these interviews with an alum of the program that you are interested in pursuing, or maybe a professional in the field that you're looking to get into, and just to really get a sense of what it is actually like. Is this an industry or a career that I really truly see myself doing? So find some of that basic information online to then maximize your time during the meeting. And like I mentioned, tap into your existing network to get introduced to new connections. Definitely be on the lookout for online resources that can help you on this journey. Unibuddy is a platform that we use over here at the School of Education. So if you are looking into a program at Rossier at this moment, it's a platform where you can connect to current students that are actually in these classes that you will be in the future, and get that firsthand information about their experience versus talking only to admissions representatives, right? And then during your meeting, you want to determine, what is your own objective for your informational interview? Are you trying to learn more about a career? Are you trying to learn more about the authentic student experience, about maybe the alumni experience and their job search afterward? Again, in person is great, but Zoom works too. We do recommend about 20 to 30-minute conversations in terms of connecting with folks. And then it is very, very important just to keep that relationship alive, to not forget to follow up afterwards. right? And then we've got some potential questions that could come up during informational interviews or you might want to plan ahead for. So these are things like what influenced you to pursue this field or this career or this role or program, whatever you might be connecting with this person for. So for those who are going to be interviewing and talking to people that are current professionals, you could ask them questions about their role. What is the type of work that you do now? Getting a sense of their day-to-day tasks and responsibilities, and what that looks like. How did you prepare for the role that you are doing now? It could be very specific training that was part of their grad program or anything else that they did to get prepared for that role. It could also be very interesting to ask, what are the professional organizations that you're affiliated with, right? And then who else should I know? Have that person connect you to somebody else in the network, so that you're also kind of building on your known network as you go. And now that you've done, some of that me search, you've asked yourselves, what are my skills and interests? What am I picturing in terms of career goals? You've started looking at programs and maybe you've already set up an informational interview. Now you have more answers to those questions, and you can definitely tie that back into your application components for a really strong application. All right, and that brings us to step two of our agenda and of our session for today. So now that you have all these reflections, we can move forward into the application process. And with that, I'll hand it over to my colleague Heidi for step two.
Thank you, Clara. So, if we can go ahead and move it to the next slide, please. All right, so here's an overview of a typical graduate application. Again, we have multiple programs represented in the room today, so there might be additional requirements that are specific to the program that you're applying to. So this is very broad, but generally we are looking at personal information, so that's the application form itself. Everything from your mailing address to maybe there are some demographic questions in the application. Next is transcripts. So very commonly you will need to upload your official college transcripts or anything after high school, basically. So for those of you who transferred, maybe you took transfer coursework elsewhere, you would need those transcripts as well. This could also include things like education abroad. So we'll need those official transcripts. In terms of resume or CV, it's common that if you're applying to either a master's or professional program, you're more likely to be submitting a resume, whereas a CV or a curriculum I can't say vitae, tends to be for students that are applying to research-based programs or doctoral programs. The next 2 points, essays and letters of rec, have their own upcoming slides. So I'll jump ahead to testing. We do not require the GRE at Rossier, but there may be tests like CBEST, CSET, LSAT that you have to consider. And also for international applicants, maybe the TOEFL, IELTS is required. These can sometimes be waived, so it's important to find out more information from your admissions representative or office. On the topic of waivers, there is often a fee to apply to a program, and it's always worth it to ask if there are waivers available for that as well. And then any additional program specific requirements, there are some programs that might have a video as well, like a recorded videotaped prompt as part of the application process. There are some applications that might require a written component. So there are program specific requirements for each one of the programs. So again, we encourage you to get into contact with that specific program representative. Another great question to ask in an admissions rep: how will my application be reviewed? At USC Rossier and at many other schools, a holistic review is used. So what does that mean? This means we're looking at all of the components evenly. Another very common question that we get from applicants is, my GPA as an undergrad wasn't too strong. Will that hurt my chances? Our office's response to that is, a quote unquote bad GPA isn't necessarily make or break, because we're coming into this knowing that students are much more than a GPA. We want to review your entire application, everything from your own experiences in your resume to perhaps some of your lived experiences as it comes across in the admission essays. We're definitely looking for folks that are aligned to our mission. So we're looking at a broad range of candidate qualities and attributes. So zooming into admissions essays, the prompts for each program is going to vary. There are very specific prompts for each of our degree programs at USC Rossier. But what you see on your screen are very general themes that you may see across admission essays. So let's start with personal statement. Generally, the theme for personal statement tend to be, why are you motivated to apply to this program? What prepares you and informs you for the program? Why now? Why at this point in your career? And then what are your professional goals and why do they relate to this degree? If this sounds familiar, it's because this is essential, taking what you have answered for yourself in terms of what are my skills, what are my interests, and what are my career goals. And that's why we encourage you to start with that me search first, not only because it informs the type of programs that you're looking at, but it also informs how you will be addressing the prompts in personal statements and in the overall admissions essay. So again, the applications for each program are going to have a very specific personal statement, but very general. And a lot of the personal statement prompts tend to look at what prepares you, what informs you to apply to this program. Additionally, once you graduate from this program, how are you looking to use what you've learned, then advance your career or address the impact to that, address the impact that you want to make? And then short answer. As the name implies, the short answer essay is a little shorter, right? So it's either going to be 200, 250, or around 300 words. The general themes for short answers might address either a program specific skill or experience, or the short answer might ask you to reflect on, for example, the USC roster mission statement. So we want to ensure that students, applicants that are coming to our programs are also invested in the work that we're doing. There may also be optional or supplemental essays. These are basically additional information that maybe you didn't get a chance to address in your personal statement or other essays. It's additional information for the review committee or admissions committee that is not addressed elsewhere in your application, or it could be context that may have impacted your academic or career trajectory. It could look like maybe additional qualifications, experiences, achievements, training, other things that you want the admissions committee to know about that maybe wasn't in your resume. Maybe it's in your transcripts, but you want to be able to talk about it more. This is additional space for you. A common question that we get is how do I provide context for something that may have impacted my academic or career journey? What does that mean? So, for example, for our program, if you have a cumulative GPA of below a 3.0, you definitely just want to talk about what happened. What happened there? Did you change your majors? Was there a life crisis during the time that you were an undergrad? Things of that nature is what you can talk about in the supplemental or optional essay. And in consultations, we talk about potential framing. How do you address something? So, if you're going to talk about a challenge or an issue, one way to approach this could be, what is a challenge or issue? What did you do to address it? And then what is the outcome of your action? Maybe you had a really challenging semester because XYZ, fill in the blank. So what's in the context? Maybe you had a health concern. Maybe it required a leave of absence. Well, how did you address that? Maybe once you came back as a student, you retook classes. Did you go to office hours with your professor? Did you do extra credit assignments, right? What did that look like for you? Provide context and then the steps you may have taken to basically overcome a potential challenge. Some additional tips in writing your essays before you start. Reflect on what informs and prepares you to pursue this program. But we've already done the research. We know what informs us, what prepares us. And if not, you know that time for that reflection. Next tip is connect the dots for your readers. This is your chance to share your story beyond your resume and your transcript. You want to be able to be very explicit in your essays because your resume might not tell the full story. Your transcripts might not tell the full story. Your admission essays are your narrative. This is your chance to tell your story. So you want to be able to connect some of those dots between the different elements of your application in only a way that you can do so. Okay. And I'll kind of talk about that more with our letters of recommendation. For many of our application prompts, there may be multiple things that you need to address in your response. So a tip there is try to separate the prompt into different sections and answer each one separately in your draft. And then once you are sure that you've answered each of the prompts, then you'll need to combine it into a single essay. And then a very common consideration is that word count. You know, we have that 500 word max for our personal statement. In your first draft, ignore the word count. Get all of your thoughts out. Answer all the different sections to your different prompts. A relevant quote I've heard is good writers know how to write, great writers know how to edit. So ignore that word count for the first draft. Just get all your thoughts out and do some of that rearranging and then trim from there and edit to fit the word count. All right, letters of recommendation. So letters of recommendation is another common component where we get lots of questions. Who should I ask to write my letter of recommendation? There's a lot of text here, so I'll try to break it down as best as possible. First of all, reflect. What are the things that you want your recommenders to talk about you? I would even encourage to go further. What are the either attributes, strengths, experiences that you want your recommenders to write about you? And how is that relevant to the program that you're applying to? You also want to be strategic. Who can provide strong examples or even concrete examples of those skills and attributes? For some of you, it might be a question of either connecting or reconnecting with a potential recommender. I hear from students who say, you know, I graduated and it's been a few years since I've talked to this person, this advisor, this professor. So it might be a question of reconnection before your ask. So whether that's setting up an appointment, going to office hours, maybe you already have a one-on-one conversations with this potential recommender, you want to be explicit in what you're asking. Don't ask for a letter of recommendation, ask for a strong letter of recommendation. And before you ask that, you might need to step up additional meetings to get a sense of like, is this the person to ask? Are they a good advocate for me? And then help them help you. What is the information that they might need? You might need to jog their memory, whether that is getting a transcript to remind them of your stellar academic performance. Maybe you're going back to find graded copies of your assignments so that they're reminded of your critical thinking skills. Maybe it's setting up time with them just to help jog their memory. Whatever the case may be prepared to help them help you. All right. And so we are closing out today's session. We've talked about so many different things. So let us create an action plan. Next slide. Do some backwards planning. Create a timeline because there are a lot of moving pieces to applying to grad school. And so you want to get organized. What works for you? Is it a spreadsheet? Is it a calendar? Is it a to-do app? There's no shortage on apps nowadays. So find what works best for you. We also know that you might be applying to other graduate programs, so you might have multiple timelines going on. You might also be applying to scholarships. One note, you apply to graduate funding 1 year before you need the money, okay? Timelines are important. In addition to hard deadline, we encourage you to think about what is your internal due date? What is your soft deadline? Because you know, you don't want to make that mad rush to the finish line. And we've seen applicants wait last minute for like 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And they don't realize, oh, it takes time to pay the application fee or to submit and process the application fee waiver. The etiquette for letters of recommendation tends to be around 6 weeks notice for asking your recommender. You might have a different relationship. You might be able to ask a recommender with less time, but it's customary to provide 6 weeks notice. So what is 6 week before the deadline that you've set yourself? The action plan is important. Feel free to take your time on this and check in with your program representative on this as well. So here's an example of what this can look like and how important it is to create your own timeline. In addition to the hard deadline, we encourage you to think about what is your internal due date? What is your soft deadline? Because again, you don't want to do that wait last minute and then you don't realize all the other things that I talked about. So, oh no, wait, sorry, I think I skipped over something. Give me a second, sorry. Um, when do I need to write my first draft to provide to a recommender to help me? The action plan is important. So feel free to take your time on this and check in with, again, your admissions representative on this backward time frame that we have here as an example. Next slide, please. Now, as we head into the Q&A portion of the session, I'll leave our contacts information. Oh, sorry, I went ahead, my bad. So for those of you who may be applying to USC Rossier or are looking to attend webinars similar to this, the next couple slides are for you. The bulk of what my colleague and I do is basically meet with applicants one-on-one, go over questions, concerns, and program information. We also do month-to-month webinars that may be program specific, but cover basically a range of topics like master's application tips and graduate funding. So please feel free to check out our events page for these sessions, and you've got a school in mind, do the same thing for that and search their website as well as for similar programming. So now that as we head into the Q&A portion of the session, I'll leave our team's contact information up. Maybe you're considering a career in education, whether it be teaching, counseling, marriage and family therapy. We're here and ready to support you on your application process. Keep in mind, we do have a lot of acronyms. So if you have any questions about what those acronyms mean, we can easily help you out. Esteban Hernandez, Masters of Arts in Teaching, and also our doctoral program called Organizational Change and Leadership. Clara Colin, who you just met and is here, she oversees our Master of Arts in Teaching, the TESOL program, our new LDAI and DSLA. I will allow her to give the definitions for those. And Beverly, who oversees PASA, EC, and our new MSOL, and Jessica Romero, who oversees our school counseling and a doctoral program as well. And then I oversee our MFT and new doctoral program, mental health and leadership. With that, let's jump into questions if you have any. Feel free to unmute yourselves, type in the chat box. Yeah, any general questions we can help you too, because we've been on this boat too.
Absolutely. So definitely like speaking from our grad school experience, but also as admissions representatives, we meet with students one-on-one to kind of come up with their own action plan and really brainstorm those considerations. But we also review these applications. So, like this, these slides were put together very intentionally just to kind of give you like an idea of the map, the kind of like the roadmap that you're building for yourself, to not just have like an application to graduate school, but you're paying that fee, you're investing all this time. We want it to be the strongest possible application that you can possibly be turning in. So this is like a really, really good place to get started. If you've been kind of holding off on talking to your own admissions representatives for the programs or the schools that you're thinking of, maybe this is a good sign to shoot that first email or book that first meeting with them and really get to know the components that aren't so general, that might be program specific or school specific for them. But we just, really hope that this is a good place to get started. And, using our expertise both as, like graduates of different graduate programs, but also admissions representatives. If there's anything that you'd like to ask, please feel free.
Again, you can type in the chat box if you guys don't want to unmute yourselves, um, show your face.
Let's see. All right. It looks like there's some folks that are like really open to a multitude of like programs. I'd be interested to hear from that side as well. Then we've got some folks that are like, okay, it's this school in this particular program, which is awesome. It's a great place to be.
Mhm.
Heidi mentioned about like scholarships and timelines and how quickly that moves. So it's really important to start like working on a deadline that works for you. Normally, you start applying to scholarships one entire calendar year before you need the money. So if want to apply to something to start in fall of 2026, fall of 2025 is when that exploration and that research really starts. So a lot of what we do is talk about, timelines for financial aid. What are the proper steps to take there? What are the proper offices to communicate with once you have these numbers? Um, so if there's any questions about that.
Yeah, I usually recommend to my applicants, if you were a scholarship recipient as an undergrad, you most likely will get a scholarship based on your writing skills, maybe volunteer work, the criteria that each scholarship has to offer. So go for it. There's a lot of free money there for graduates. So definitely take advantage of start doing your research now and apply to as many scholarships as you can because it'll help ease the cost, of course. They range from 500 to as much as $30,000 in grad school.
Absolutely. And just be aware of those opportunities because there's sometimes they're associated, if you know you're a USC student currently, could be USC specific scholarships, but also external agencies have their own timelines and eligibility requirements. Ah, great
I think,
question, Sarah.
Sarah, I get this question asked a lot from my applicants to our Master of Science in Marriage and Family Therapy program. Find out what the program some like we have strict guidelines. We want to make sure that our recommenders are at least keeping it recent and relevant. So if you are going to be reaching out to people you haven't talked to in a while, again, first make sure that they are coming from either a academic or professional background. Maybe take them out for coffee. Um, and just kind of remind them, hey, this is a program that I'm applying to. Perhaps show them your resume so they can kind of get a gist of what to talk about if they can't remember if you were a former employer or a former student. Sometimes there's like a certain advisor or mentor that kind of helped you throughout your undergrad career. Yeah, definitely reach out to them first. Like I said, usually take them out to coffee, meet up, and great way to kind of reconnect. That's what I recommend. Do you recommend anything else, Clara?
Yeah, I'd say a common tip that comes up is if it's that initial contact, if it's like a LinkedIn message or a quick email, maybe not someone that you have like physical access to or can, step into their office hours. I would say keep it short and sweet. Definitely, like reach out. Email etiquette is important, like ask like how they're doing, and then just say, I'm thinking about this particular school, this particular graduate program, or I'm looking at graduate programs in this field. I'm thinking ahead to fall 2027 and would love to, like get some feedback, or, hear your perspective on some of these programs that you're applying to. A lot of my students, definitely, have like gone like the professional route for some of the programs that I oversee. These people might be pivoting careers. This might be someone they worked with, like a long like time ago, or might have a career in the field that now they're trying to pivot into. So like, hey, so and so, it's great to see you active on LinkedIn or whatever it may be. And it's just like, I see that, you've been in your current role as a, learning designer for the past couple of years, and I'd love to know more about what you do day to day. So it's kind of bringing back that informational interview piece, because you want that strong letter of recommendation. So it can't just be like, I think I did okay in this like professor's class. Let me just tell them I want a strong letter of rec. But maybe they might not be the best person. They might not be the best advocate. So that informational interview, or that time to kind of chat before the ask of a letter of recommendation, could be very important in like you vetting, the person that's going to write this letter for you. because we can speak on our experience as Rossier admissions representatives. Um, we don't just want like a letter of rec to kind of check off that box. It should be a quality letter of recommendation that can speak with examples of the wonderful work that these people have seen you do. So if it's just kind of like, yeah, I remember them, they were always polite, it's very evident when we just kind of like get those like short, like, yeah, I'm not sure if they like maybe don't know this person very, very much. To like the people that are like, I have seen career growth in this person. I'm so sure that they'll thrive in your program. They know the name of the program. They know this person's career goals and attributes. That's definitely always going to be just a much better help in your application process and really catch the attention of your admissions committee as well. You're welcome, Sarah, and thank you. Thank you for your question.
Any other general questions, kind of like Sarah, about, where to start or another common question I do get asked, and I think this is a helpful tip for you all. Utilize your resources here as an undergrad.
Mhm.
Um, because sometimes we'll get asked, do you have anybody in your program that'll check out my essay? Because I don't know, perhaps you forgot APA formatting and you just want somebody to take a look at it, a second look. I mean, start now, like start looking at some programs and see what their personal statement essay responses are, do that draft and utilize the Career Center here and see if maybe they'll have somebody to help you kind of look at it, get a freshener about resumes. Yeah, definitely utilize the career services here because that's what they're here for. They're here to help you and guide you and help you move on to that next step in graduate school. So if you need that little help, or if you don't, perhaps you have a family or a friend that has applied to grad school and has been admitted, have them take a look at your essay, and they can give you some feedback. So that's usually tips that I give to applicants who are applying to grad school and perhaps are asking like, do we offer any services like that? Because unfortunately we don't. A lot of the advisors or admission counselors like Glada and I, sometimes we are part of the review committee. So we're giving you like the best tips possible, but we can't give you too much because we also review a lot of the applications as well. So I always guide applicants to utilize their undergraduate resources because there are places that'll help you with essays. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely get that question of like, hey, can you look over my essay before I upload it? Unfortunately, the answer is no, because I will be one of those people reviewing these files and looking at these essays. Conflict of interest there. So, we can definitely brainstorm on your timeline, your action plan. I'm considering these three people for my letter of rec, but don't know who to choose. But I talk to them next week again. They're like, all right, I sent out those emails. Like those resources, including people like us are so, so valuable. And definitely there's no lack of them on this campus if you are currently a USC student. So I always remind people it's part of your fees and tuition as a student. So definitely tap into those resources, tap into those networks. It's really, really important that you're utilizing everything that's at your disposal.
Yeah, and take advantage of fee waivers. I know I kind of skimmed over that. As a alumni of USC and you are applying to other grad schools at USC, there's a USC alumni waiver. It's on the USC graduate admissions website, so make sure you do that process so that you don't have to pay if you are applying to multiple grad schools because they are costly. And also, there are other alternatives. Just ask the person you're talking to if any fee waiver options are available.
Definitely. Our current fee application for or application fee for Rossier is $105. And you can apply, definitely like get informed about the specific institution you're applying to. But for us, you can apply for up to three programs in that cycle. So, if you're getting a fee waiver for one, that's great. But if you're applying to all three, that's, 105 times two. So
Mhm.
it definitely adds up. And, I'm sure that you're looking at multiple institutions, multiple programs to really get like the best options and the best kind of like outcome there. So yeah, fee waivers is awesome. If you're thinking about a USC one for being an undergraduate alumni, you definitely apply for waivers. If not, it doesn't hurt to reach out to an admissions representative. Like worst thing they can say is, no, we ran out of fee waivers, but it's important to ask.
All right. Well, if there's no other questions, you guys have been great. We want to thank you all for joining us for this live session. We hope that you've learned here today continues to guide you through your process. And as we all say here, fight on.
Right on, everyone. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Cecilia.
Okay.